Again, welcome to Indiana Benefits Counseling, and I'm really happy to be able to host this session today. We've got some great people that are going to talk to us about what's available to us in Indiana. So I just wanted to remind people who don't know, this is Work to Include. Work to Include is a statewide coalition of people with disabilities and family members that are working to promote employment for people with disabilities. We have three main goals. One is to work at eliminating barriers and designing a statewide system that works for everyone, that follows along with our law around employment first. Our second goal is to develop local initiatives that dispel those myths about community employment. And this is the result of one of those efforts, so that people with disabilities understand what resources are available to them, and employers know the benefit of hiring talent. And then our final goal is to document the success of people with disabilities in employment. And to that end, we have lots of information on our website, worktoinclude.org, that talks about those people who have succeeded and are succeeding every day. So just to let you know, we are recording this presentation. Please use the Q&A to enter your questions or comments. We will have a time at the end for that. If you aren't currently subscribed to Work to Include, we have a monthly newsletter. We have regular webinars like this. You can join us at worktoinclude.org. If you need to access closed captioning, make sure that you click the closed caption button on your Zoom. You can enable live transcript at the bottom as well. And you can also view full transcript if needed. So I just also wanted to remind everybody that this presentation is being supported by the Indiana Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. And we thank them for all their support over the last 3.5 years. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that our presenters can start sharing theirs. And I do believe that Tina Skeel with Indiana Works is going to kick us off and introduce the rest of the panel.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for having us. It is a pleasure to come and be part of the Work to Include initiative. Over the past 3 years, we've had such a great opportunity to meet so many of the people on this call. And thank you for sharing your time with us today. We want to start out by saying that this presentation, while it says benefits counseling systems, we are going to be providing just a very, very high level conversation around benefits counseling, but we won't be getting into the nitty gritty parts about each type of entitlement and the work incentives, but we will talk about where you can get that information. Today's presentation was put together by 4 partners. One of them being the Indiana Institute on Community and Disability, the Center for Community Living and Careers. We have Sarah from there. Indiana Works is actually part of 2 different programs throughout the state of Indiana. One being hosted by Aspire Indiana. And the second project in the southern region is actually part of the Center for Accessible Living out of Kentucky. However, CSRS is still the contractor for that project. So just know that both projects are named Indiana Works, but the agencies that actually provide the staffing for that are a little bit different. So knowing that there is a lot involved in this, we wanted to make sure that you kind of had a general idea who does what. So today's presenters, as Susan already said, my name is Tina Skeel. I'm the project director for Indiana Works in the northern and central part of the state. And we'll show you a map here in a little bit so you kind of know what region it is. But Indiana Works is actually part of the Work Incentive Planning and Assistance Projects through Social Security. We have Sarah Level, the BIN project coordinator for the Center on Community Living and Careers from the Indiana Institute of Disability and Community out of IU. We also have Jared Price, who is part of Youth Employment Empowerment Services. Sorry about that, Jared. He is a certified BIN liaison, brand new at this, super excited about that. He is also an independent living coordinator at the Will Center Incorporated. And finally, we have the perspective of an individual who I am very fond of and have gotten to know over the years, Mark Hubler. And speaking about Mark's experience is Alfred Hubler. And so we thank him for being part of that. All right, so let's go ahead and pass it over to Sarah, and let's talk a little bit about why benefits counseling is important.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad that you was able to join us today. Benefit counseling is very important for anybody that is going back to work. It helps to avoid issues with state and federal benefits, not only with the federal level, which is the SSA or Social Security Administration, Medicaid and SNAP and housing. There's other programs that we guide people with. How to use work incentives is very important for a person that's going back to work and kind of worrying about losing their benefits when they go back to work. Making sure that you know and how to prepare for any changes on your benefits, and also to how and when to report information about work or any other changes that may occur. And you don't have to know it all. Like Tina said earlier, this is going to be a very broad conversation. There is a lot of us out here to help you. So a couple things, important things to remember, to know, is there's two programs in Social Security disability benefits that are very different work rules. And the first one that we're going to look at is the Social Security Income, or SSI. And some of you also may know it as Title 16. SSI pays for cash benefits for disabled or blind individuals with limited income and sources. And the SSI beneficiaries have very little to no work history and has not earned enough credits to qualify for SSDI or Social Security disability. For 2022, for an individual, the maximum amount that a person can receive in SSI this year is $841. And then if you have a couple that are both receiving SSI, they are able to receive $1,260. We have noted that there are several work incentives that is available to the SSI beneficiary: earned income exclusion, a general income exclusion, impairment related work expense. There's a blind work expense for people that are considered stat blind through the Social Security office. There is actually a work incentives for students, which is huge for them. And it's called Student Earned Income Exclusion, and PASS, which is a plan for achievement of self-support.
And those are just for the SSI folks, right?
Yes, that is just for the SSI. Now you have the other world, which is the SSDI, which is the Social Security Disability Insurance. And it has very different rules and different work incentives, or what I call safety nets. SSDI pays beneficiaries of disability and blind individuals who are insured by work contributions and the Social Security Trust Fund. And it's the FEDA taxes that they take out of your paycheck every time you get paid. There's also a childhood disability benefit that is payable to the disabled adult children of an insured worker who has retired or has a disability themselves and is collecting Social Security, or a person, a parent that has passed away. In order to receive these benefits against a parent's record, they must be disabled before the age 22. Now, their work incentives, like I said, is completely different than the SSI side. They have trial work periods. They have extended period of eligibility. They also have the impairment-related work expense. They also have what we call a subsidy or special condition work incentives. And then to protect their Medicare coverage, we have an extended period of Medicare coverage, which is about 7.5 years of coverage to help keep their Medicare as they continue working. Like I said, that they have very, very different worlds, and we're just kind of skimming off the top, but there are many different work incentives to help people. There is also a situation where you can get both. And each portion of the check follows under the rules. So if somebody is getting SSI, they have those rules. And then if they're getting SSDI, they have those rules. So it's very important to have that benefit counseling happening while a person is trying to improve their livelihood.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. So I know you all have a reaction button on your screens. So I'm curious how many of you your brains are mush after hearing all of that SSI, SSDI, extended period of eligibility, blah, blah, blah. Anybody out there going, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if your brain is mush and you're a little worried about it, don't worry, okay? There are lots and lots and lots of places to get help. Okay, sorry about that. First of all, in Indiana, we are super, super lucky. We are a very unique state in the sense that we have a lot of options for individuals to receive benefits counseling. One of the first places that you can always go is the Social Security office. Now, you realize obviously that currently those office doors are closed to in-person meetings. I've heard many people say, I've tried to call the Social Security office. It's taking a really long time to get through. Well, don't panic. Okay, you can get information there. You can get information online from their office. But we also have what are called work incentive planning and assistance projects that were built out to help Social Security some of these questions about benefits and work incentive planning. And then in Indiana, it is super cool that we have the Benefits Information Network Project. Sometimes it's called the BIT. So the Social Security Project is called WIPA, and the State Vocational Rehabilitation Project is called the BIT. Both of these places you can get benefits counseling. And what's really cool is that we work together. So we kind of have a system, and when we talk here in just a little bit about eligibility, we have created a really nice network to transition folks from vocational rehabilitation services to long-term services. So we're really lucky. And then for those folks who don't have vocational rehabilitation services and have Social Security, we have the WIPA projects. you can actually go to your vocational rehabilitation office and ask questions about benefits as well. So many of the vocational rehabilitation counselors in our state do have some training around benefits counseling. Now, most of them are not the experts, and I will say the folks that have been trained in depth would probably be the WIPA or the BIN projects. But you can get some good basic information from your vocational rehabilitation office. And then you can also, there's several private companies or people that do benefits counseling. If you Google benefits counseling, you might find a private company. My only concern is that if you choose a private company or a private person, that you make sure that that person has good training and certification. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and we don't want you to get caught up in that misinformation. All right, so let's go on to the next slide. Let's talk about the eligibility about WIPA projects. So first of all, the work incentive planning and assistance projects, as I said before, are funded through Social Security. There is no cost to that. You don't have to go anywhere to get services either. They're all done remotely or they're done remotely through the phone or video conferencing. To be eligible, you have to be eligible for SSDI or SSI. Okay, so receiving some type or entitled to some type of benefit. You need to be between the ages of 14 to retirement age. And the reason we don't say 65 anymore is because obviously that number is changing for some of us. And we won't be, not at, all of us will be retiring at 65. So it's full retirement age. The folks that are eligible for our services need to be working, re-entering the workforce, or just about to enter the workforce. Social Security sets priority groups for us. We don't set these ourselves. So our priority groups are people who are working, self-employed, transition age youth, which are youth between the ages of 14 and 25, and veterans. So that's who we work with primarily. I'm going to send it back to Sarah, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about the eligibility for the BIN project. So now you know about WIPA, let's flip over to the BIN project.
Okay, eligibility for the BIN project, or you may also have heard Benefit Information Network. We partner with the Office of Vocational Rehab, and also we work with the Social Security Office administration. And what we do is we have classes that we certify people to able to do the benefit counseling, and we are their support. And people that we are working with or we can work with, we have about maybe 123 what we call BIN liaisons certified here in Indiana. So the people that we are working with are individuals are working with vocational rehab or VR, individuals as working with a network, employment network, currently receiving Social Security disability benefits, but we also work with people that's just receiving state benefits also, because there is a lot of concern about their health care. They don't want to lose their health care and go back to work. So we're able to work with the people just with state benefits. We also work with transition students, which is huge. It's growing. It's exciting to see the young adults getting out in the work field. And we work with the adults until age of retirement. And now Tina is going to talk a little bit about Ticket to Work.
Okay, so you saw on that last slide, there was something about employment networks and the Ticket to Work. So knowing that this is kind of a little bit confusing for most families, we thought we might kind of run over a couple of things with you very quickly. First of all, if you're eligible for the Ticket to Work program and are working with vocational rehabilitation, that means that your ticket is typically automatically assigned. So on the ticket side, it's considered in use. So if you're using vocational rehabilitation, then it's typically assigned. If you're not working with vocational rehabilitation or VR, you could assign your ticket to a selected employment network. And the way you find those is a website. We'll talk about that at the very end. It's a Choose Work website, but we'll get there. Some employment networks do provide that benefits counseling in addition to their job placement. But most of the benefits counseling is done at the WIPA level. Okay, here's the important thing. This is super, super, super important. You do not need to assign your ticket to get benefits counseling. Some people get that confused. So you don't necessarily have to do that. However, receiving benefits counseling from a WIPA project does not mean your ticket is assigned. That's super important to understand. So the WIPA projects and the benefits counseling stuff is all separate, okay? All right. I built this graphic. Sarah and I worked on this graphic together because we really wanted to highlight the fact that we are very unique in Indiana. We have a number of beneficiaries out there. I think the number is pretty close to about 192,000 individuals who could benefit from benefits counseling. Last year, the WIPA project served approximately right at 1,200 and the BIN right about the same amount. So that's a pretty small number, but we are getting there. And so we're going to need your help. We have an ask at the very end, but we need your help getting this information out there. So how do you get connected with benefits counseling? So first of all, if you're interested in getting assistance from the WIPA project, also known as Indiana Works, the easiest and fastest way to get connected is to call the Ticket to Work helpline. That number is 866-968-7842. There is a TTY number for those folks who are hard of hearing or deaf, and that number is 866-833-2967. And that Ticket to Work helpline is open typically 8 to 8. And it doesn't matter where you are in the United States or even the territories. If you call that 866 number, they will get you connected to a WIPA project in whatever area you're in. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
To able to get help or benefit counseling from the BIN project, the Indiana BIN project, you can contact your employment services staff. They are working with us and are certified yearly. It's required for them to be certified yearly. You can also contact vocational rehab, or you can also contact the employment network staff.
All right, well, this slide is a little small, but Susan, I'm correct in saying that everybody will get a copy of this, am I correct?
You are correct.
Oops, sorry. All right, well, we gave you a couple of resources here. One, the contact information for each project. So we have the Indiana Works project, and we have both the Central and Southern projects. If you want to call them directly, right here are the numbers for you. They also have some social media that's out there. So Aspire Indiana, which is the northern and central parts, have Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I will tell you that the videos on that particular website really are all inclusive, no matter where you are in the state of Indiana. CSRS has their website. And then Sarah, would you like to share a little bit about your Facebook and LinkedIn information?
Yes, the Center of Community Living and Careers, we do have a Facebook page and also LinkedIn to learn more about us. But we also, I put in our website, because you can actually go there and get information about, more information about benefits. We have fact sheets on there. We also have a page on there for just transition students. So like Tina said, I would encourage you guys to go and check out all of the available sites.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I really want to stress is, and Al and our little group, we were all talking about it earlier, is knowledge is power. And these Facebook pages that the Center for Community Living and Careers and the Facebook page for Aspire Indiana Works, they put out a lot of information. If you want to keep up to date on what's going on, this is a great way. So if you've got a smartphone sitting there with you and you have your Facebook account, I'm expecting to see some more likes and especially shares of information. It's great when people like pages, but where the power comes in is when you share that information with other people. All right, so if you hear nothing else of what we've said, I want you to hear this loud and clear. Wherever you get information, make sure it is a reputable source. Social Security is one of my favorite places to go and get information. Ticket to Work, that Choose Work at ssa.gov. Is really important to be able to connect with information, and you can connect directly with information about Indiana by just going in and putting in your zip code. Vocational Rehabilitation Services has a very comprehensive website as well. If you have questions about Medicaid, you can go directly to their website. There is also Indiana disability rights. So if you have questions regarding whether your rights have been impeded, I would really recommend that you utilize that IDR services. They're fantastic people. Really enjoy working with them. Well, Susan, I don't know if we have time for questions right here. We can take some questions before we go into the second part.
I think that's fine. If there are questions out there, I'm monitoring the Q&A. So if anybody wants to input a question into the Q&A, we'll see if we can get some answers from Tina and Sarah right now. I just want to say, while people are putting questions in there, that was one of the best summaries I've ever heard of all these resources. Honestly, I think that, as we spoke earlier, one of the things that inhibits people is just not knowing what's available to them. So this was wonderful. Great, you guys.
Thank you. So any questions out there?
I have, Jan has a question. Is there a list of what is covered with an IRWE, IRWE?
There are lists, and I will tell you both the fact sheets on either the IIDC or the WIPA projects both have a list of impairment related work expenses. You're also welcome to call either project. We're glad to supply that for you. I will tell you, I have a belief, a very good friend of mine, Connie Farrell, always said, well, if you have questions on whether it's an IRWE, just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And I've always used that as the rule of thumb. So if you have a question about it, if it would be counted as an IRWE, you can contact one of the projects, but the worst thing that they can say is no. But see if it sticks.
And then I have a question about whether whether the both entities cover the Medicaid buy-in or ABLE accounts.
Yes, we do. We both do that. And we also cover the asset building. That's very important to people. So yeah, there's many different areas that we both cover.
So one thing I think might be helpful to clarify is, especially on ABLE accounts and trusts, we don't physically set up those ABLE accounts or trusts. However, we can get you linked into those specific resources, and each of us have some basic information, but we really encourage individuals and their families to reach out to the content experts on those particular items. So if you're calling to set up an ABLE account, we will work with you on getting connected with the ABLE account that you choose.
And I have a question here from Anne. She asked, can you say a little bit about substantial gainful activity?
Oh, we could go on and on and on. So my favorite thing, so substantial gainful activity is also called SGA. It is a number every living that number this year is $1,350. Now, here's what typically happens, and this is really impacting only those individuals on SSDI. Okay, so when we're talking about substantial gainful activity level, we're talking about folks on SSDI or Title II benefits. Sorry, want to be clear about that. So I hear it called the parking lot. I can only work up to $1,350, and people park their car right there at that $1,350. There are other work incentives out there to help you. Tons of different things that you can do. Sarah and I, every single day with our staff, work on impairment related work expenses that somebody mentioned earlier. There's all kinds of different ways to work around this. Special conditions, subsidies, all kinds of cool stuff that you can do that you can help you work at a higher level. So don't get too stuck on that $1,350. Don't park your car just yet. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add to the SGA conversation?
No, you pretty well explained it really well. It's a number, and there's other work incentives that that can put you above that number and still have your benefits. So like Tina said, don't park your car.
Yeah. So,
well, and I think the important thing out of all of this conversation is that you can't assume anything. You need to get some support and guidance in order to help you make some decisions, but there's a lot of things that are possible that we don't think are possible.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can't walk away thinking, so each one of our staff, so Sarah's staff goes through a rigorous training. The WIPA staffs are actually certified through Social Security and have to go through various types of trainings as well. And for somebody, I've been doing this 30 years, and every day there's something new or something different, things change. So be careful also about the information that you read, that it's timely and accurate, because things do change considerably over the years. And I've worked with tons of people who have said, I can only make $1,200 a year. And it's like, no, I don't think so. So, all right. Any other questions? Because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for Jared and Al.
I just had one more question from Jan about 1619B. Uh,
Mm.
I don't know if you want to explain quickly what that might
It's my
be.
favorite. You want to take it, sir? You want me to?
Okay, 1619B is for people that are on SSI. And what happens and I'm putting in a very small nutshell, but it's more, there's more information out there. But what happens is if a person is working and their SSI check goes to 0 because of their earnings, 1619B kicks in and protects their Medicaid for 12 months. But also it doesn't kick them off of the SSI rolls. So let's say 9 months down the road, something happens and you can't work anymore. You will need to let Social Security and Medicaid know that, but you can get back on SSI. So it's a really cool protection. It's the ultimate, as far as I'm concerned, when work incentive for an SSI beneficiary.
So it's a federal rule through Social Security that protects your Indiana Medicaid. And it's probably one of the least known work incentives out there. But it is one of the most powerful for those folks on SSI. It's an amazing benefit.
Some people really, if they lose their SSI, they're okay because of what their earnings are now. But healthcare is a big issue. So this is huge work incentive that we probably need to get the word out more about.
For sure. So you know what, that brings me up back to something. And Susan, if it's okay, I'm going to share our last slide now, and then we can come back to it. But I just want to impress upon everybody on this call that our ask is that you help us get this information out about benefits counseling. One of the things that we heard throughout the Employment First Summit and the Work to Include initiatives that have been going on in the town halls across the state is that there isn't benefits counseling. And what we realized was that people just didn't know how to access that information, how to get connected. So when I was quite serious when I said, get on your phone, like our Facebook pages, share that information with friends, family, everybody, because that's half of the problem, that people just don't even realize that these benefits that we live in a state where we have lots of access to benefits counseling in comparison to other states. So let's make sure and get that connected with folks. And I will tell you, if you're in the southern region, that's where we really need the help the most. If you are in Brown County or counties below that, all the way down to the Kentucky line, please help us get this information out there, okay? Sorry, I didn't want to miss that opportunity, and you may hear it again and again and again, but I want to bring it back to our liaisons who really have walked the walk through this benefit counseling process. Susan, is it okay if I hand it over to Jared?
It's very much okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jared, do you want me to keep this slide up there, or would you like me to just take it down and it just be you?
Either way works for me because I don't have slides prepared, so either way. So my name is Jared Price, and I am one of many of the benefits liaisons who works within the Benefits Information Network and gets certified annually. So I guess I need to back up just a moment and let you know that I myself am a person with multiple disabilities. I am legally blind. I am also a person who has cerebral palsy. So I actually went to work with the help of a job coach and through volunteering. So, you know, by doing the volunteering and having the job coach and working with the VR services, that potentially brought me the ability to get connected with different employers and allow me the opportunity to work within the VR system to eventually find a job. And the job that I have now is thanks to the local VR office. I actually was able to receive benefits counseling, so I knew ahead of time how the process would work, because let me tell you, it is scary, and a lot of people with disabilities rely on those benefits, and making sure that those things like your Medicaid and things of that nature stay intact. That can mean the difference between I want to go to work or I'm not sure what I want to do. But being able to sit down with a certified benefits liaison and be assured of, okay, here's what's going to happen with your benefits when you start working. And then having the ability to understand that, you know, there are other protections that are available or other work incentives that are available. Like, for example, the I would be considered the stat blind, so I actually got the ability to use what was referred to as a BWE, or blind work expense. So things like for my guide dog Middleton to be bathed and taken care of and those sort of things, I was able to write those expenses off as part of my work related expenses. I often use him as a tool and an aid to get me from point A to point B. Fast forward 8 or 9 years later, and I have since became a benefits liaison and have been able to work with many people. You work one-on-one with the individual, and we have been able to sit down with the individual. We collect a little bit of, well, actually, there's a large amount of information that we collect about your benefits, your housing situation, any other concerns that you may have, along with your income, and getting documentation from Social Security so that we can provide you with an accurate representation of your plan, as well as any additional incentives that might apply to you, such as the earned income credit and the ABLE account, so that you can save above the $2,000 threshold for Indiana Medicaid. But my favorite thing that I like to do when I'm doing a plan is actually the strategic planning section, which is the very final section that you do, because I get to bring everything full circle. And I say, you know, you're starting here. Today, you're going to learn about your incentives and then complete these additional steps of different tasks in order to learn more about your incentives, making sure that you're reporting things on time. And also, we do a lot of the hard work for you, because all of those fact sheets, you get those as part of your plan for the ones that apply to you. And you also get a nice phone number lookup sheet as well. So you're able to reach out to all the different organizations that might have been involved in the plan or that work with you, so that you and your representative or guardian can work together to use that plan as a springboard to set yourself up for successful employment. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Jared.
You're welcome.
That's wonderful. Al, do you want to take over and talk about a family perspective?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. First of all, thanks for inviting me. My name's Al Hubler, and I guess part of my claim to fame is I'm Mark Hubler's father. And I'm going to start off by giving you, just from my perspective, through the years, what we've looked at and how we've arrived at this point. I first want to qualify to say that we are different, and we all have different talents. And we got to work to build those talents into real strengths. Even disability or no disability, it applies. I have 4 sons. Our second son, Mark, was born in 1964 with Down syndrome. At that point in time, they called it Mongolism. They gave us no hope for anything of that he would accomplish. Matter of fact, they advised us very strongly to put him in an institution because he would ruin our family, is what the doctor said. I want to talk about 6 big decisions that we've made that has made a tremendous difference in Mark's life. The first big decision was when he was 1 day old. The doctors advised institutionalize him. There are no programs versus take him home and raise him like his other brothers. We chose to take him home. In 1964, when he was born, there were no programs that we had to go to. Matter of fact, we had no idea what Mongolism even meant. But at the age of 18, he began working at Rock Industries, which is a workshop. He went on SSI and started receiving checks from the government while he was working at Rock. He worked at Rock for 5 years until he was 23. In 1987, I purchased my first company, and I hired Mark. And he worked alongside his 3 brothers, and I paid him a competitive wage. The issue was he was making too much money to stay on SSI. We attempted to return the checks to the government, but they kept sending us checks. So my wife and I decided to deposit the checks, and when the government came back and said, we're paying you, you shouldn't be paid, we could write them a check, and I'll be happy. And that's exactly what happened. My first encounter with this was the first encounter with the government. And in a way, even though we try to help, there is a limitation of reaching full potential. The second big decision was age 23. I had a decision to make because of this limitation. Should I reduce Mark's pay, or is he going to lose his benefits from SSI? I didn't realize, but the real decision was, as a parent, do I choose the path of special needs for Mark versus choose the path of ordinary life for Mark? We informed the government to keep the checks, and we would survive on our own. Mark worked for me for 5 years at a real job and was paid a real wage. Mark found an apartment and moved out of our house. That was his initiative. He told my wife and I, the other brothers are gone, I'm leaving. Well, what he didn't know is I just sold my business, so he didn't have a job. So for the next years, he lived on his own, paid his own expenses, but did it from his savings. The third big decision was Mark's decision at age 28. I said, Mark, you can come back home and live with your parents, or you can depend on the government versus find a new job and continue to live on your own. Well, Mark has a way of saying, I love you, but, and that's what he told my wife and I love you, but I'm not coming back. He found his own job at McDonald's and worked there for 3 years. He left McDonald's and moved in with his grandfather to keep him out of the nursing home until he passed away. At 31, he worked for a local hospital, washing dishes in the kitchen for 5 years. At 36, the hospital reorganized their staff and he found a job at Walmart and worked there for 5.5 years as a greeter. This is where he truly found his talent and strengths, and that is working with people, being organized, and caring for each individual he met. At 41, he took over a company. We took over a company making bed foundations and planned to hire individuals with disabilities. We also worked together as we started consulting with other businesses on how to hire individuals with disabilities. Everything was going great, except the fact I had real heart problems and I had to sell the business and stop consulting. Again, that caused the fourth decision to be made. Again, that was Mark's decision. Mark decided at that point in time to go back to college and become a motivational speaker. But he could not go to school and work too. So all this time, he was living on his own like you and I do, paying his bills, going to work. His fifth big decision was Mark's. You can come back and live with my wife and I, or you can let the government support you. The government said that anyone will work 15 years, and Mark had worked 15 years on his own, couldn't have a disability, and therefore could not qualify for benefits. He lived off his savings while he was going to school, and the government was making their decision. The government finally decided that Mark did qualify for SSDI, Medicaid, food stamps, and free medical service. It was great. On October 2016, at the age of 52, Mark went on his first waiver. In the same year of 52, Mark graduated from college and now is a motivational speaker. He now travels the country speaking to businesses, schools, government, parents, self-advocates about ROI for individuals. That's respect, opportunity, and inclusion. He also started a part-time job working 20 hours a week at $15 per hour to supplement his income during COVID-19. During COVID-19, nobody wanted anybody to group and come to hear him speak. That has since changed, and his opportunities are now really increasing. My wife and I are now 81, and Mark just got on the CIH waiver at 57 years old. Well, the sixth and final big decision is interesting because Mark had to make the same decision that my wife and I had to make when he was born. Do you choose a life with special needs, or do you choose a path of ordinary life? Not a hard decision for Mark. His question to me was, hey, Dad, why do I need government benefits? The fact of the matter is, Mark is doing all this and still keeping his benefits. Once he went on to benefits, that caused me to go in and do some research, and I'm still learning. But I tell you, with the experts you have on this webinar, together with the programs, particularly Indiana has and also federal government has, it can be done. There's three aspects. One that I look at is the limit on his income. Well, Mark currently is on Ticket to Work, and he's loving it. He gives him an opportunity to work part-time to generate revenue and do what he does. What he really likes to do is speak. That's the Ticket to Work, and that is what the Ticket to Work is all about, to let individuals with disabilities get back to work. Limit on his assets. You know, it's unbelievable to think that an individual with disabilities cannot have more than $2,000 in assets. But recently was passed the ABLE account. Now he can have more than that. He can save up $15,000 a year. So that took that barrier away. And his medical expense with MedWorks is wonderful. It provides him with the medical help he needs while he's working. Learned a lot about this through the BIN services that was mentioned, benefit in network services. And I highly recommend that you really do the research, because what you don't know can really hurt you. Or not hurt you, but maybe limit your capabilities. Mark is living an ordinary life. and is reaching its full potential because the decisions that were made to live an ordinary life versus a special needs life. People say you've taught Mark so much. The fact of the matter is he's taught us and my family more than we ever taught him. And if I had to end with one word, it would have to be high, or two words, I guess, high expectations. I think as parents and anyone dealing with people with disabilities, sometimes we limit the expectations we put on them. And as Mark would tell you if he was here, that I never got special treatments and they expected so much from me. Well, guess what? We weren't disappointed. Can everybody achieve the life Mark's living? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe with all the programs we have now, there'll be individuals that far exceed Mark's capabilities. But I really enjoy being part of this because it is important for everybody to learn about the programs, and they're changing every day. And it's important to understand these. So your loved ones, your people you have responsible for, it's important they reach their full potential and understand their talents so they can develop their strengths. This is just one story, but it's a story we lived for 57 years, and I've seen it develop. And if people don't think work's important, Mark was off in setting his apartment during the time that the pandemic hit, with nothing to do, didn't have a job, couldn't go out and speak. And believe me, I saw a tremendous deterioration in Mark. Matter of fact, it worried me because I thought he was digressing. That all changed when he got his first part-time job. He came back, and he came back strong. So I would highly recommend that, yes, these programs are important. And if you have high expectations, you can make it work. And you got to keep in mind that it's not about the dollars you receive through the government. It's about self-worth and allowing individuals that you love to reach their full potential. And with that, Susan, I'll turn it back to you.
That was fantastic, Al. Thank you so much. And so important for people to hear your experience and to understand how hard those decisions are along the way. Excellent. Thank you. We just have a couple minutes. If there's anybody out there with a question, we can see if we can get any responses here. So anyone out there, if you want to enter into the question and answer, please do. Also, I want to, while you're doing that, remind everybody that this will be archived on our website, worktoinclude.org. So as Tina asked earlier, it's going to be available for you to share. And I'll be sending the materials out shortly after this event. So not seeing any questions. Again, thank you, everyone, and appreciate. And if you do have any questions, anything that you'd like us to talk about further, please do share that with us. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. And thank you, Tina and Sarah and Jared and Al. This is excellent. Thank you.
Looks like we still have 11 still logged on.
We do. Yeah, I have a few. You guys, fantastic.
Jared, I enjoyed hearing your story.
Mhm.
Super awesome. You're on mute, by the way, Jared.
You'd think I'd figure this out with as many Zoom calls as we're on now.
We all have that same problem.
Well, I have a speaker right here that's not working, and I don't think you were on earlier. At 10 a.m. my computer started dying. The battery started dying. I couldn't figure out why. And I did some research, and apparently my dog ate through my power cord. So I was running off to get a new power cord this morning. Yay, $60. I love this dog. It's awesome.
Hey, at least it's not a Mac. Those are 80.
Well, I bought the generic, so I saved the $20 buying the generic.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. Well,
Well,
and then
I don't think I could have scripted this better, everyone. I think that this was just exactly what we were looking for, just in terms of that high level overview and all the different perspectives. It's perfect. I'm
yay.
gonna
And
stop
we're back
recording.
at 6.
And we're back at 6. So